We are up and we're live. What's happening, man? Thank you guys tuning in to another episode of the One Big Fire podcast. We have Mr. Stasik hanging out in DFW on his way to Cabo, and got the one and only Miss Gogo joining us. What's happening, everybody?
Hi, you are in my old what is it called? Stamping grounds. What is that called? Like Detroit, right?
No, he's actually in Dallas. So
Dallas.
My old stomping ground.
DTW. DFW. Got it, Dallas. Because Detroit is DTW. That's what I heard. I heard Detroit.
Actually,
very cool.
We're on our way to the One Big Fire Cabo event with the Mr. Brick Gove, and we got Ed Milet speaking there. We got a bunch of big speakers that are going to be there, and I'm excited too. It's first time in Cabo, so we're going to check it out.
Oh, is this your first time? Oh, yeah. You love it. You love it.
You have a great time. It'll be awesome. So, Gogo, Al, and I we're chatting a little bit. You know, we've had the opportunity to have you on multiple conversations, and just kind of thinking, kind of the angle that we really wanted to go, the conversation we wanted to have, and I think it'd be really, cool to kind of start out. You know, we operate on the business side of things with the brokerage, really from the whole agent to CEO mindset, and you know, just the whole evolution from solopreneur agent to really becoming not only the CEO of your business, but the CEO of your life. And, you know, your path, your journey, your story, au pair to agent to world-class marketer. And as you know, that's our belief, right? It's not the best real estate agent that wins. It's the best marketer that always wins. And I would just love for you to kind of, you know, from a mindset perspective is what we were kind of thinking about, and really wanting to hear from you, the mindset, the thought process, the angle that we, you know, want to go, the path, how we want to be thinking about things as the evolution in business in general, but specifically speaking to real estate agents to grow their business and grow their, you know, organization.
I think I got a little luckier than most, right? In a sense that I had much more of a hardship than somebody who's an American walking into a real estate license. Right? So if I guess so if you think about it, when I got licensed in real estate, like I knew no one, but most importantly, no one knew me, right? Because it's not about who you know. Yeah, it matters who you know, but it most matters who knows you. Right. And so since I was 21 when I came to the US, I have no college friends. I have no cousins. I have no, you name it, I don't have it. Right. Well, most Americans who go and get a real estate license, they have all that. At least they have childhood friends, a couple cousins that's going to buy houses from them. You know, I mean, like they have at least the basic, the foundation. But since I didn't have any of that. I kind of had to make sure. Also, I'm the sorest loser too. I'm like, if I'm doing anything, I have to be on top of the list or not on the list at all. So it's just, I only have a plan A plan all the time. I don't have plan B. Second place will never be good enough. I'm the biggest loser if I'm in second place. I don't care. Like every time I see these like rankings, right? I don't care. I passed 89,000 of them. I'm like, who the mother plunger for in front of me, right? Like that's just how my brain works. And so since my hands were so set tied, I had to make a name for myself. I didn't have another option to figure it out. You know what I mean? So I think if you put everyone in the hardship of you just going to have to make a name for yourself, and what is it going to take, they would all figure it out. They would all be totally fine with putting themselves in front of the camera and being findable, right? You just need to exist. So when somebody is ready to make that decision, you are at least an option in their head. Most agents don't want to get in front of the camera, which means you're never even a decision-making option in their head. They're not choosing between you and another agent. They're choosing between another agent and another agent because you don't exist, because you don't have the social presence, right? And then eventually, if you want to take it even one step further, in my mind, I don't have to negotiate my commission. I know I have the job when I walk in on the door because they literally reach out, be like, hey, Gogo, we're having a baby. Can you sell our house, right? And today, now I'm at the point where I'm not hireable. Like my hourly rate today is $2,400 an hour. If I'm not making $2,400 an hour, I can't do it because I'm losing money, right? So at any given point, like on a listing, if you're really good at what you do on the listing side, you'll spend at least 10 to 12 hours with the seller, right? That's from the moment that you have the initial phone call, you drive out to their property, you have the chitty chat for half an hour to their property, go home, do the docs, send it over for electronic signature, do the listing. Even when you have a TC and an assistant and an admin, you're still very much involved in the process. You look over your listing, make sure the T's are, crossed and the I's are dotted, the right price. Then you need to market it. Then you need to get all the phone calls for negotiations. So you still end up being involved 10 to 12 hours, I would say, in average, if you're good at what you do, like if you have it down to a science as a listing agent. So if that's the case, that for me, a minimum is $24,000 for me at a very minimum, if you're counting 10 hours of my time, right? So if I have to make $24,000 on the listing side, while the average home sold in Michigan, we just pulled a number yesterday. We have almost 200 agents in Michigan in the Team Gogo organization. The average price per deal in Michigan is $260,000. It is not worth my time, right? I can't. The only way I can look at this, if my average price reaches $1 million, which is like barely exist in the Pinckney, Michigan area when I'm licensed, right? And now if you take it one step further and you go into the buy side transactions, right? If you look at the buy side transaction in average, especially when we were in the multi-bidding situation, when you had to show 10 houses and make 8 offers and none of them got accepted, right? If you look at that, then you're at least 30, 40 hours in with a buyer from start to finish. By the time you did the showings, to the negotiations, to the home inspection, all the way to the walkthroughs, and oh, we forgot to measure for a fridge and then take them back because my parents are in town, and you know how that goes on the buy side. Now you're 30, 40 hours in on the buy side. Now you're talking, I need to be making 80 grand for me to worth my time, right? So when you become really good, the idea of becoming really good with marketing is to become the best in the industry, where they so said beg to work with you. You'll never have to negotiate your commission. You know what you bring to the table. You're not going against other agents because they literally will call you to be like, we only want to work with you. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't know why anybody in their right mind wouldn't get in front of the freaking camera.
You win before you walk in the door.
Yes. Yeah, you build that name. You know the saying that your name will introduce you faster than you will introduce you? Yeah. I don't need to introduce myself. They know who I am because I put myself on camera.
How do you break through that limiting belief, right? Because there's so many people that just have that mental roadblock that's stopping them. How do you go about building that belief? I mean, maybe a little bit different for you, but how do we coach people through to start to develop and have that internal belief that this is, what has to happen in order for them to be able to thrive moving into the future?
Might be the business answer you guys want to hear, but here's the answer. I believe in God. I believe that God created me, and I believe that God doesn't make mistakes. So if he created me this way, I'm perfect. I don't need to change. All I need to do is stay in my lane. All I need to do is be me. Because what is designed for me to have in this life based on my skill set that God gave me, right? All I need to do is take action. And the thing that changed my mind, it's not that it changed my mind. I always believed in God. I didn't always walk the belief, right? So if you think about it, you only have fear when you have no faith. You cannot have both at the same time. So the only time that you're fearful of anything is when you don't have your faith. So I'll tell you this story. It literally gives me chills every time because it literally, that moment changed my life. I was flying, and I used to be deadly afraid of flights. So I used to do for 2 weeks prior to flying, I would have diarrhea. Like I'm not kidding. Like I used to be afraid of flying, but I knew that's what it takes to go to places, to learn things, to meet people, to get out of the everyday grind, right? Even today, when I get on a plane, I put a cross on it. As I go on there, I literally touch the plane and put a cross on it. So anyway, I'm sitting on this place, sitting next to this lady, and she was a teacher her whole life. And I would say she was probably late 50s, early 60s. And every year in summer break, she would have the 3 months off, right? And she would go visit a country. So she was like 2 countries short of visiting every country on the planet. And I'm sitting right next to her, like the coolest lady ever, right? And we chitty-chatting, and for whatever reason, this plane is taking a long time to take off. So I don't know if they were fixing something or whatever. I felt like I got to really know her, and we are still on the driveway of the, what is that called?
Still on the tarmac. Yeah.
Tarmac, yes. So finally, the plane starts moving and we are mid-sentence conversation, but I look at her and I said, hey, I'm afraid of flying. So if you don't mind, as we are taking off, I'm going to start praying. When we are at that 10,000 thing and cruising, I'm probably good by then. So then we can continue our conversation. So the plane takes off. I start praying. Eyes closed, hands together. I'm praying. And then I feel this. She's like hitting my leg. And I'm like mid prayer, right? And I'm like, do I open my eyes? Do I act like I don't feel it? Like, this is kind of weird because I did give her a heads up that I'm going to be praying, and usually don't bother people when they're praying. Like, I wouldn't bother you if you told me you're praying. You know what I mean? So anyway, I open my eyes, I look at her and I'm like, yes. And she goes, do you believe in God? I'm like, yes. I mean, I literally just told you I'm praying. And she goes, do you believe in God all the time or just sometime?
Yeah.
That moment,
I got it.
Yeah.
that moment changed me of who I am and how I literally have chills. Like every hair follicle stands up on my body right now. I realized that if I was ever afraid of something or fearful of something or faithless, it's because I had no faith in that moment. It's not because God exists in some moments and doesn't in other. It's not because you're perfect in some moments and not perfect in the other. And by the way, there isn't such a thing as perfect. Jesus was perfect. I mean, not Jesus, but we are the closest thing to it because we are created in God's image. And last I checked, God doesn't make mistakes. So if he created me this way to have the life that I was meant to live, the only thing I need to do, the only part of my responsibility, because you remember the other thing God gives us is a choice, is to take action or not take action. The only reason you wouldn't take action is because you have no faith. In that moment, you chose fear. I never choose fear. It's really that freaking simple. I just go walls to walls because if God didn't man that idea for me, he would have given it to you.
Yeah.
The ideas that are given to you are given to you because God knows you. He created you and you know what you are capable of. Are you going to take action? That is up to you. Most people don't. The truth is most people don't. Most people are more, I would say, most of the time live in fear than live in faith. And it's a choice. So I choose faith.
That's super
And I
powerful.
go for it every time. And I win
Gogo.
every time.
In reflecting back on that moment on the plane, and the lady's asking you, are you faithful all the time or some of the time? It's almost a little bit of a challenge. You know, I don't, you know, everyone's so different when it comes to faith. But like, you were praying for a reason. It may not have been because you didn't have faith. Maybe it's just you needed to, you know, meditate, connect on a different level with your maker. And that was, you know, that was why you were doing what you're doing. You actually took it as a lesson. You gave meaning, the correct meaning to it, not, you know, some people would have been like offended. You actually attached a different meaning to it and said, this is an amazing lesson. I love it. I love that story.
It literally changed my life. I don't look at anything the same anymore. I don't fear anything. I mean, I fear things like, but that's a choice, like heights. I just don't like them. I don't want to get over it. Like, I want something to be fearful of in this world, right? But other than that, I just live my best life. I stay in my lane. I believe if God gives me an idea, it was meant for me to take action on it. I take action pretty much every time it works out.
Where did you then know the path was marketing, right? I mean, obviously social media going that route, but just truly understanding, you know, marketing, being able to, you know, provide a solution to help people solve their problems. Like what was that path like?
So I'm just going to give you guys a lot of lessons today.
I like it.
Okay. So the next thing is like, people's like, what's your purpose? What's your purpose? And it sounds like such a big question, right? And I've never really been able to answer it. I've never felt like I had a talent, right? Like where some people are like, ooh, from the day they are 5 years old, it's like, ooh, I'm going to be a ballerina, I'm going to be a vet, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be a pilot. I'm like, I'm 43 years old, I don't know what I'm going to be when I grow up, right? Like, I don't know. So I heard someone say your purpose is, what is that thing that you would do even for free for the rest of your life, and you would wake up every morning and you would be so excited that you get to do it again, right? In other ways said, if I may use this quote that pretty much just says that if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So for whatever reason, I am good at marketing. It's like, I don't know why. It's just how my brain works. It's how God wired me. I have no problem. I really, I think it also has to do with, I really don't think about me. I never think about them. I hate to put it that way. But when I create content, I don't create the content thinking, oh, I wonder what Yasmin's going to think of that. Like,
Yeah,
I just,
go.
oh,
But I have to stop you because I think from my observation when we met,
yeah,
I think you were marketing and you were marketing on Instagram. You were shooting videos. I think from the past conversations we had, you didn't really have a certain strategy. You were just like grabbing the phone and shooting. Then
yeah,
you became and transformed into a marketer, which means you had purpose behind every piece of content you were putting out there. There was something you had to unlock, something you had to learn. I know you're a multi-two-comma award winner, meaning you've had funnels that have brought you more than $1 million multiple times. And you don't get like that by just winging it. You had to learn something, have a strategy, have a mindset shift. What was it that did that? Because nobody just goes
there you go.
and buys ClickFunnels and starts making seven figures. That's not how it works. I know that. You
Yeah.
had an epiphany or a shift.
Yeah, I mean, everything that you do, you're not going to get like the best at it on day one. My gosh, if you go back to look at my videos, God knows what I was doing and if it was having a result or not, right? But when you do it over and over again, and when you post it out there to the world, and you're like, sometimes I'm like, this is gonna be the best video, and it has like 12 likes. I'm like, what the? Did I post it at the wrong time? Did we use the wrong words? Did I get into Instagram jail? Like, what is going on, right? And then I asked my son to do one video for me last summer when we moved up to Michigan, and it has 6.5 million views. And I'm like, what the heck? It's one of the worst videos I've ever done. I'm on the couch. There's no props. There's no what question he's gonna ask me. There's like chips on the counter and chocolate wrapper on the next to me on the couch and all that. And it's the video that goes viral, right? So I feel like if you love what you do, just figure out what is that thing that you really enjoy and go elbow deep in it, meaning push every button on every platform, ask every question, go to the events, follow the people, copy the people, implement into your business. And over time, you're going to get really good at it because each of the posts are going to teach you something. So if it's social media, in my case, it's a post, right? I realize that when I go live, less people come on there. So I'm like, well, why would I do a live? It's clearly not working for me. And it's not my audience. My audience is busy out there in the field. They don't have time to come on a live, right? They're going to watch it sometimes later, right? So you'll see that what's working for you. So if it's open houses, right, you might do it at 11 o'clock on a Saturday because that's what everybody does, their open houses. And then you have two people walk through, and then you might say, you know what if I try it on a Thursday? Let's try it on a Thursday at 6:30, see what happens. And you might have 17 people stopping by on the way home from work, right? So whatever the thing is that you're doing, that you decide that is your lane, first of all, figure out what is your lane and stick to it. I tell my people all the time, stay in your lane. Don't get shiny object syndrome, because like let's look at Tina Cole, for example. She has one of the most successful mega icon teams. She's huge on scripts and she's huge on cold call. Now, do I think it's work? Yes, it makes millions of dollars for her and she loves it. If you put me into her seats, I would probably quit in 2 weeks and take a night shift at Taco Bell because I would hate it. It is not my cup of tea. So I think the most important part is to stay in your lane, figure out what is that lane. And then when you figure out what your lane is, become the best at it. Be the first one up, be the last one down, go to every event, follow the people that been there where you want to go, read the books, go to pay for the coaches, go to the masterminds, like outwork, out hustle everybody in that lane. And then eventually it's lonely at the top, right? Eventually that lane becomes a path and you're the only one on it. Even though it was like a marathon and 50,000 of you started at the same time, eventually there's just like one person at the very end is just keep running and they look back and you passed everyone. So find your lane, stay in it, and become the best at it. Like mediocre, if you decide to do something, mediocre is not why you started doing it in the first place.
Yeah. It's obsessed, right? You have to be obsessed about the thing, or you're going to be, like you said, average. And I just, especially in this industry, average, you're not going to make it. And I mean, really, like you said, find your lane and become obsessed. And I see it so many times, right? Like, this is what you're supposed to do, right? Like you said, with Tina's model, this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to hit the phones. You're supposed to hit that. You're supposed to do this. And some people just aren't wired that way. And there's so many other ways to go about accomplishing the outcome and accomplishing the goal of what you're trying to do. It is, yeah. I mean, spot on advice, for sure.
And also, I feel like you could force it. I mean, if my kids are starving, I can do anything. If that was the only way and my kids are starving, I will have a mega icon team. I will run it. I will have the overhead. I will make millions. I could do it. But eventually, if you're not in your lane and you keep going with that speed and you're not enjoying it, you're going to give up because you're going to burn out.
It's not sustainable, right? It's not sustainable at all. And, you know, it goes back to kind of the values, and it goes back to one of my favorite values at EXP, and it's sustainability, right? Every decision that this company makes, is this going to be sustainable for the long run, for the future, for the next 20 years? Is this a sustainable decision? And you get to a point, I don't question the decisions that leadership makes anymore, because they've proven themselves over the last 7-8 years that we've been, you know, on this rocket ship. They've proven themselves. They make sustainable decisions. And then they have to make adjustments to make it even more sustainable. And that's also part of why things are agile. But like you said, you know, anybody can do anything for a period of time, but it's not a fuel that is going to last. So getting in that lane as fast as you can is absolutely key.
Guys, I don't want to interrupt, but they're calling our gate. I'm going to let you guys finish out. Love you both. Thank you, Gogo.
All right, brother.
You're amazing. Every time I talk to you, I'm getting takeaways, and we're going to miss you in Cabo. We love y'all.
Thank you.
See you, bro.
Yeah, have a good night.
So, Gogo, one of the other things that I wanted to kind of shift over, because I see, especially a lot of agents, and I mean, obviously it's evolutions, right? You get to one level, it unlocks another level. There's always another level. And the only reason that I believe you should have a team within real estate. Now, you can be individual agent in real estate because it's a vehicle for freedom. It could be cash flow. However, no matter what you do in real estate, it has to be unlocking other opportunities. That's the only reason. And you look at how Al got out of production. How he got out of production is because he had another opportunity. He started a calling service, and they started calling for Chet Black. They started calling for NAEA. They started doing, call service. It was another business entity that he had. It allowed him to get out of his real estate business. And I look at all of these mega teams that are great, and once they figure out customer acquisition, and when you control customer acquisition, you can do whatever you want. And I think a lot of agents, they're coming around to it a little bit, but when you can generate opportunities, you hold all the keys to the kingdom, and you can unlock any business entity, any revenue streams that you want. And so like for us, we got out because the coaching business took off. So we were able to get out of production to be able to go that avenue. For you, you probably do it as well as anybody, if not better than anybody, when it comes to making sure that you're tapping into every opportunity possible and really building just such an amazing web of revenue streams through affiliate incomes and, businesses, business entities. Talk to me about that, because I think that's such a big get for agents once they get to a certain level to where they can consistently acquire the opportunity. And it goes back to belief, having the belief that, oh, wow, I can control customer acquisition. I hold the keys to the kingdom. I want to get my fair share for being able to turn these opportunities over to anyone else. Like, talk us through that for you and kind of, your belief system around it and how you approach, affiliate income and other business entities.
Gosh, that's such a loaded question. How do I start? I think I don't want to ramble away, so I'm going to talk about a few things. So number one, let's talk about your hourly rate, right? So as an individual agent, you are going to hit a ceiling because there's only one of you and there's only 24 hours in the day, which means that if you keep doing what you're doing, the only way to make more money in real estate, right, is to sell more transactions or sell the same amount at a higher rate or sell less transactions, but even a higher rate, right? But in my case, what happened is, mind you, today, which is 2025, the average price range in Michigan is $260,000. When I was in production, my average was $420,000. Like, I was already at the high end. The next only option up was the gated communities, which we had like 2 of in my area. And those homes usually sat on the market for a minimum of 6 months. Yes, they were over $1 million, but the buyer pool was so small that those homes sat on the market for a long time because someone wanted to live in $1 million property. They weren't moving to the boonies. They were closer to a city. So it was a very small pool of people. So I said, okay, then what am I going to move to sell more expensive properties, or am I going to drive an hour and a half every time? So then now I'm in the car all day. That's no solution to my problem, right? So you're going to hit a ceiling. So then your question is, okay, then how am I going to make more money? If there's no more me and there's no more time, then how am I going to make more money? That means you have to multiply you, because you cannot multiply time.
Right.
There's only 24 hours in the day, no matter what. Right? So the only multiplying factor in this one would be then the people. So that means, okay, let me multiply myself, and then they can do that. Eventually you stay in production, maybe on the listing side, and then you get a couple buyers agents, they do the buy side. Again, remember we did your commission buy side versus listing side. So take your average commission divided by 12 hours on the listing side or divided by 30 hours on the buy side, and you'll realize and what your hourly rate is worth on each side. And you realize it's not worth to work with buyers. Those are the first thing, and renters, don't even get me started on renters, right? So those are the first thing that you need to delegate off of your plate. So then now you're like, oh, okay, I guess I'm building a team. That's just like the natural effect of being successful as a top producing agent. So then you build a team, and then your agents are mostly in production on the buy side, and you're on production on the listing side. And then eventually you get to a point where, like, hold on, I'd rather take 2 buy side commission for 0 hours work than take 1 listing side commission for 10 hours work. And then you're going to give up the listing side altogether. And then you get a listing agent. Next thing you know, you're out of production, but you have a team that's functioning without you. Then you decide to move across the street, across the country, because John Kitchen tells you you're not a tree, you can live anywhere. Like, why do you guys live in Michigan? And then you look at your husband, and your husband look at you, and you're like, why do we live in Michigan? Then you move across the country to Florida. So now you have location freedom, because my team is up in Michigan, making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. I'm 0 time invested. Like, yes, I had a meeting here and there with them. So maybe 2-3 hours a week for a meeting. Well, then I started a digital product, and then I started a coaching business, and then I started a membership based. And then I realized all of those are mostly passive. So now I'm making more not working the time than I am. So then the question is, then why am I investing 4 hours into a team that's making me less money than investing 0 hours into a digital product that's making me more money? So then you're like, well, I guess I dissolve my team. So then you dissolve your team, and then you're going to full digital products, right? Yeah. And then you're like, oh, okay, but then in the meantime, your social media profiles are growing and your reach is growing, and you realize you're reaching millions of people every month when you open your mouth. Then you realize, well, then I need to charge every time I open my mouth, because I'm technically a marketing machine for all of these different companies. Every time somebody asks me, I'm like, what VA company do you use? Or what blah, blah, blah. Or, I need a TC, who do you recommend? Really? Well, I'm feeding all of these other businesses. I need to get paid for that time. So then you say, okay, well, I work for affiliate income. So then you reach out to all of these companies, you get your affiliate link, you start marketing these companies, right? And then guess what happens? You build their book of business so big that they don't have time to service you and your clients, or even better, they take your affiliate link away after the company is built. They sell the company and you get absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh, hold on a minute. So affiliate income is not going to cut it anymore. Now I want ownership. So now every conversation I'm having is, what percentage of ownership do I get? Do they pay me upfront too? Because here's what's going to happen. Initially, they're going to offer you ownership in a company that's eventually is going to be publicly traded. Well, what if they never go publicly traded and you spend 5 years of your life growing it? They're making profit, but you're still not making anything because you're sitting and waiting for that company to once go public so you can get your shares. This literally happened. So then you learn from that mistake, right? As you're growing, and then you say, okay, I don't only want ownership, I want ownership plus upfront marketing dollars, right? For my efforts as I am growing it. And then eventually when it grows into the big busty machine, right? Then I want my shares. So I want both, because they might not go public. They might not decide to sell one day. They might just milk that, cow until the cows come home, as they say. So, and then one day you look up and you're like, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, I have 27 companies. And I'm like, how did it happen? This is how it happened, is because you learn from each of the opportunities that you take a chance on yourself, right? And then each of that opportunity is going to teach you a lesson. And as long as you're willing to learn that lesson, you will never make that mistake again. And then you just keep growing. And next thing you know, you're having these conversations in boardrooms with a bunch of 60-year-old white male. And then there is little Gogo that shows up, right? But it is really an amazing evolution when you watch yourself of how far you have come. If you're willing to learn lesson, if you're willing to take chances, make mistakes, learn those lessons, and never make those mistakes again, but keep adding on and growing, it will eventually take you that next commission, where now I go into boardrooms and have billion-dollar conversations. And if you told me that 14 years ago, I would have been like, I'm gonna make a $4,000 commission. I don't know what you're talking about, right? But it is an amazing, I'm a sucker for learning. I really enjoy feeding my brain. And I really hate being dumb. And for me, when I don't understand something, I don't like that feeling. So I will ask, I'm usually that teacher's pet. Every event I go to, any Zoom call I go on, any opportunity that's in front of me, I don't care how stupid I may sound when I ask my questions. I'm going to ask my questions because when I need to make a decision, I need to make an educated decision. This can make or break your life. So if I don't understand something, I won't do it until I ask all the questions where my things are answered. So that, I would say, is my baseline of how you're going to get to the next level, is through knowledge and taking chances. The other thing that I think it's very important when it comes to said affiliate marketing, right, is your trustworthiness. You are as good as your word. You will never see me market any product or any service that I don't love and trust and personally use. Or I have vetted them, meaning that I don't personally use it. Like I have now a database company that I'm going to be mentioning here soon for all the realtors, because for as little as $100, you can get as much data as many phone numbers, email addresses, you name it. You can have it for $100 a month. I'm like, you're freaking kidding me? Like that is a gold mine in real estate, right? Now, I'm not going to use it because I'm not in production anymore, but I have vetted them and I researched them and I realized it is the best thing since sliced bread for the everyday agent now. But 99% of the time, if I ever open my mouth about a product or service, it's because I have tried it or currently using it and I love it. I don't care how much they would pay me. I would never take a payment for a service that I don't actually love and believe that it is there to serve somebody else's life and business, right? Because I think it's very important. Like you can spend 14 years building your reputation and you can ruin it in 5 minutes by attaching your name to a product or service that will drag it into the ground with it, right? So I think it's very important to stay true to yourself and only do things that you believe in and not for money.
I love what you said there, right? Because I'm always listening for what are people's processes, and are they moving towards something or away from something? And one thing that I kind of caught from your first time, and all the conversations you and I've had is, I'm not going to look dumb. Like just plain and simple, I'm not going to look dumb, and I have just this unwavering hunger for learning. And I have just this unwavering hunger for learning. And I have just this unwavering hunger for learning. And I have just this unwavering hunger for learning. And I have just this unwavering hunger for learning. And I have just this unwavering hunger for learning. And I have just this unwavering hunger for learning. And I have just this unwavering hunger for learning. And I have just this unwavering hunger for learning. And I have just this unwavering hunger for learning. And I have just this unwavering hunger for learning. And I have just this unwavering hunger for learning. And I have just this unwavering hunger for learning. And I have just this unwavering hunger for learning. And I have just this unwavering hunger for learning. And I have just this unwavering hunger for learning. And I have just this unwavering hunger for learning. And I have just this unwavering hunger for learning. And I have just this unwavering hunger for learning. And I have just this unwavering hunger for learning. And I have just this unwavering hunger for learning. And I have just this unwavering hunger for learning. And I have just this unwavering hunger for learning. And I have just this unwavering hu for learning. And the only way you learn is through failure. And that's the process.
It's through it.
And that is the process. And listening to a lot of, understanding kind of greatness, right? Like I'm not a sports like homer and I go where, but I do pay attention to greatness, right? I was never really a Tom Brady fan, but I paid attention to Tom Brady. It's like, what is the process? Like he's one of one. Like what is he doing? What is he going through? And then you listen to a lot of like the Kobe, the Mamba mentality, and it's like he loved to dominate. He loved to put his foot on people's throats, but the next day he was at practice, right? And I love just what came out of the Super Bowl with AJ Brown and Jalen. Like AJ went right on social media and he goes, "Listen, I thought the championship was going to be great. It's been 2 days. It's back to work, right? Like, I don't like this. I don't like sitting here holding the trophy. Like, I love the work. I love when I'm running by a DB and his head drops because he knows he's beat. That's what I love, right? What is the process that drives you to be able to, continue to pursue greatness? Because you never get there, right? It's just always a process. And I loved what you were saying there, right? As you were kind of talking about kind of the keys to, it's just a process, and is this always another level, and it's to just continue to evolve. But the only way you get there is through learning.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love it. I absolutely love the process. I absolutely love when I learn a lesson, when it like gets nailed in. I'm like, ooh, well, that was good. I guess I'm never going to make that mistake again, right?
Yeah.
Also reading contracts, signing NDAs, like all of these things that you just get really good at it because you're signing your life away, right? So you will sit there and read contracts for days at a time because some of these contracts are like 47 pages long, right? And then even though I have now a whole team of attorneys and what I call a board of directors, and they read it for me and I trust them, but they don't really understand because I get into so many different businesses, right? So I have fractionalized real estate businesses. I have blockchain technology businesses. I have digital products. I have coaching business. I have the downline at EXP. I do nationwide referrals. Like you name it, like it's just so different, right? Like, yes, I started out in real estate, but today, as we are making money, right, I have to learn to invest into different things, from syndications to Airbnb, short-term rental, long-term rentals, all of these. You have to get good at all of these different things, right? And so you have to represent yourself and your best interest. So you'll find yourself sitting there and reading these contracts, and I'm like, how did I get myself? Like, what am I now? I'm an attorney, right? But you have to be able to learn and grow with it, because you can't rely on third parties. They don't really understand who you are and where you're going and where you're trying to take your business. And I think the next thing that is super important in the process, there are phases to money. And I feel like most of our lives, we are taught to make money, right? Like we spend so much time in this era of how to make money, right? And then when you get to this like top part of like you are making your money, right? The question is, what the heck to do with it? Like, how many of you that are watching or listening right now, you can say that you were born into a billionaire family with a silver spoon in your mouth? Like, and anybody?
Nobody listening to this.
Anybody belongs to Elon Musk? Like, are you one of your 14 children? And if you are, you're too young to be being an entrepreneur anyway, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know anybody that was born into a billionaire family that can truly advise you. And if you think about it, should you ask your friends what to do with your millions, that like the most money they ever made was like a $46,000 salary, right? Working full-time for it, driving an hour there, an hour back a day. No, it's not the right person to ask. They don't know. They truly, not because they don't care about you or they don't want to help you. They just don't know. So then there's a whole other part to life. When we spend so much time in the how to make money, but nobody is there when you finally made it to figure out what to do with it. Right? So now you're going to have to really good at advocating for yourself and reading the books and going to events and figuring out what are syndications and what are dividends and what should you invest in and what's a cost segregation and all of these things. So then you can represent yourself and not lose it at the back end. Because I have met so many people in my career who have made a shit ton of money, but they have nothing to show for it because they forgot that there is another step to the process. Right? So the education, guys, never stops. You might not be learning how to make more money. You will be learning what to do with that money. And then eventually you will learn of what you will have to learn to let your money make you money. And I think that is the hardest part, because if you look at me now, I'm 43 years old today. I have spent 43 years of my life, which is by far is 100% of my life, right? I have spent 100% of my life working for money, trading time for money.
Right.
Now I need to figure out how to spend the rest of my life of not trading any time for money anymore, but making my money make me money, which is the concept that I spent 0% of my life on, because it wasn't a problem. So as you're growing, you're going to be faced with different lessons. As long as you're open to it, to learn it, I feel like the process is the best part. The process is where you like get all of these little rewards. Like you get a reward for making money, and then you get a reward to be building a team, and then you get a reward for building an online digital product, and then you get a reward for getting investments, and then you get a reward for having a 7-digit in stocks, and then get a reward for finally going a little bit into cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and all of these things. And then you get a reward for, as long as you keep getting those rewards, you are going to get a smarter person. And then I don't know where the end is. I don't think there is an end necessarily, because there's always somebody that's doing better than you. But as long as you enjoy the ride of researching, like I always say, if I can do this, then what else can I do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just a great belief system, and it all is rooted obviously back in our values and in the things that we're not going to tolerate, but it all does fall within the process, and it just everything defaults back to it. So it's amazing. Gogo, you're incredible. I appreciate you carving out a little bit of time for us, really pouring back in, and really the whole intent and goal of the One Big Fire conversation. We can burn pretty bright on our own, but it's pretty massive when we come together and put that one big fire into a big massive.
I'm a proud honey badger.
Yes, you are.
You guys
Awesome.
changed I remember the first event I went to, and coming out of real estate one in Keller Williams, right, where it was mostly like a closed door policy. Coming out of those type of brokerage rooms, going into the very first event with you guys where everybody openly shares. And there was this guy who just tapped me on the shoulder. He's like, "Oh, I'll just give you that spreadsheet. What's your email address?" And I was like,
yeah.
What? Like, I don't, I'm sorry, what's your name? Like, I don't know. You don't owe me anything. Why are you giving me this tracker? Like, I was emailing my team to build a tracker for me by the time I get home. It really changed my life. So for all of you who are listening, and this might be the first thing that you listen to from the Honey Badgers, I strongly recommend, it will change your life if you start going to events. It will change your life if you start meeting people. And the more you give, the more you get, right? So today, there is no one in the company, no one in the Honey Badgers world, then I can reach out to ask for something and they wouldn't give it to me in 2 minutes, right? Because they know that in return, I would do the same. So take advantage for these relationships. One big fire means that we all bring our log, throw it on the same fire, and then together imagine the fire that we can build together versus you having your own little bonfire on your own. So make sure you bring your log, meaning you bring your knowledge, share your knowledge with the people, because we all hold knowledge on something, right? We can all help each other. And when we throw a log on the same fire, we will all shine bigger and better together.
That's right. Awesome. Well said. Gogo, thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for having me.